She couldn't even finish the sentence. My husband, he was buried yesterday. Her voice shattered in the middle of the courtroom, and the paper in her hands began to shake so violently it made a faint crackling sound in the silence. Every eye turned toward her. Even the officers by the wall straightened. And for the first time that day, the room didn't feel like a courtroom anymore. It felt like something fragile had just been placed in the center of it, and everyone was afraid to touch it. If you've ever wondered whether justice can have a heart, stay with this story. And tell me in the comments, should the law always be strict, or should compassion have a place in it? Because what happens next will challenge everything you think you know. She stood there alone. No lawyer, no polished speech, just a simple black dress, slightly wrinkled, like it had been worn too long. Her eyes were swollen, red, exhausted, the kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from lack of sleep, but from loss. Across the room, a clerk quietly read the charge: parking violation, expired meter, issued just one day after her husband's funeral. It sounded small, insignificant, routine, but something about the way she held herself, like she was barely holding together, made it feel like anything but routine. At the bench sat Frank Caprio, calm as ever, glasses resting low on his nose, observing her carefully, not just listening, seeing. "Ma'am," he said gently, his voice steady but softer than usual, "tell me what happened." She swallowed hard, gripping the edge of the podium like it was the only thing keeping her upright. I wasn't thinking about parking meters," she said, her voice trembling. "I was thinking about how I was going to go home to an empty house." The courtroom went quiet. Not the usual quiet, the kind of quiet where people forget to breathe. She continued, words coming in fragments. "We were married 32 years, 32, and I parked outside the hospital because I didn't know where else to go. That's when everything changed, because suddenly this wasn't about a ticket anymore. It was about grief, raw, unfiltered, sitting right there in front of everyone." The clerk shifted uncomfortably. Papers rustled. Someone in the back coughed, then immediately went still again. Judge Caprio leaned forward slightly. "And the ticket was issued the next day?" he asked. She nodded. "I didn't even see it," she whispered. "I was planning his service, talking to family, signing papers. Papers I never thought I'd have to sign alone." Her voice cracked again. A woman in the gallery wiped her eyes. But then, something unexpected. The clerk, following procedure, began to speak again, outlining the fine, the violation, the standard penalties, routine, detached. And that's when the shift happened. A subtle one, but powerful. Judge Caprio raised his hand. "Let's pause," Frank Caprio said. The courtroom went still, dead silent, because everyone felt it now. This wasn't going where anyone expected. He looked at her again, not at the ticket, not at the paperwork, at her. "You said you were at the hospital," he said. "Was your husband admitted?" She nodded slowly. "He was there for 2 weeks," she said. "I parked outside every day. I didn't care about the meter. I just wanted to be close." The words hung in the air, heavy, real. And then came the first reveal, a hospital document, a discharge summary, time-stamped, the same day the ticket was issued, the same day he passed. A ripple moved through the room, soft gasps, subtle shifts, eyes widening. But the clerk, still bound to procedure, spoke again. "Your Honor, while we sympathize the violation, that's when everything changed again." Judge Caprio turned his head slowly, not angry, but firm. "We don't just sympathize in this courtroom," he said quietly. "We understand." The clerk fell silent. The room held its breath. The judge removed his glasses, setting them down with care. And for a moment, he didn't speak. He just looked at her. Really looked, as if weighing something deeper than the law. "You were there," he said softly. "Every day." She nodded. "And when he passed, you were alone?" A pause, then a small, broken nod. "Yes." The courtroom went silent again. And this time, it stayed that way, because something had shifted, not just in the case, in the room itself. The judge exhaled slowly, his composure still intact, but his voice carrying something new now, something human. You know, Frank Caprio said, people think justice is about rules, about lines on paper. He paused. But justice is about people. The words settled over the courtroom like a weight, and then he leaned forward. You didn't ignore the meter because you didn't care, he said. You ignored it because something far more important was happening. She covered her mouth, trying to hold back another wave of emotion. You were saying goodbye. A tear slipped down her cheek, and suddenly the judge's voice faltered, just for a second, enough for everyone to notice, enough for everyone to feel it. He looked down briefly, composing himself, then back up, and that's when the moment became unforgettable. This court is not blind to humanity, he said, his voice steady again, but softer than ever. And I refuse to pretend that this situation is just another violation. The clerk didn't move. No one did. Case dismissed. A collective inhale, then release. The woman broke down completely, her shoulders shaking, her hand gripping the podium like it was the only thing keeping her from collapsing. Thank you, she whispered, barely audible. Thank you. But the judge wasn't finished. And ma'am, he added gently, on behalf of everyone here, I'm sorry for your loss. That's when everything truly changed, because this wasn't just a dismissal. It was acknowledgement. It was dignity. It was compassion in a place where people rarely expect it. The courtroom, once rigid and procedural, felt different now, softer, warmer, real. Weeks later, the story spread, not because of the ticket, but because of the moment. People shared it, talked about it, argued about whether judges should act like that. But one thing was undeniable. That day, justice didn't just follow the law. It understood the human being standing in front of it. And the woman, she returned to her life slowly, one day at a time. But she carried something with her now. Not just grief, but the memory of being seen, of being heard, of being treated like more than a case number. So now I ask you, was that the right call? Or should the law always stay strict, no matter the situation? Tell me in the comments. And if you believe moments like this matter, if you believe justice should have both strength and compassion, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to see it.